In order to succeed, all businesses need a plan, okay? A well laid out plan, a roadmap, a pathway to success, in a manner of speaking. And all business plans, which will eventually be successful, will begin with having a clear understanding of businesses' objectives. And that's exactly what we're going to be discussing in this chapter, the role objectives play in taking a company forward and making sure that the entire workforce is aligned and focusing towards the same objective. So, what are objectives? Objective is a goal or an aim that a business collectively works towards. And the word collectively I use very consciously here because in a business, there's not one or two people who are responsible for taking the company forward. It's the effort of the entire workforce that will eventually lead towards success. And until and unless everyone in the organization is aware and has a clear understanding of what their role is in that organization, they will never be able to fully contribute and justify being in the company. So it falls upon the business itself to first identify and define what the business is all about and what they hope to achieve in the next months or in the next year. And once that's been decided, it then has to be transformed or translated into actual objectives for individual workers. Without having a knowledge of what one is supposed to do, how will they be able to justify or contribute to the business? And that's what we'll be discussing throughout this chapter. What objectives provide for a company is a clear focus as to what they have to do. Everyone is informed of their roles, of the expectations the company has of the employees, and of course, the employees also have certain expectations from the business, and that is also cleared out in this process. It's also used to control and review what the business is doing. So control meaning that whatever you're trying to achieve, you want to see if you're on the right track or not. So you want to have parameters, have financial numbers or different targets, which will help you to identify whether you're on the right track or not. And eventually, once you've achieved an objective, you would want to know how you got there. If it is repeatable, can we apply it to a different product perhaps, or open a new company based on the same objective? So a lot to learn from what you've already achieved from the business objectives. And finally, what it provides is this strategy, a plan of action for the business to follow. Like, take your example. You sit here preparing for an exam because you have a certain target in life. You want to go to the next stage in your education, your universities, your colleges, and they will require a certain number of exams to be given, certain qualifications to be achieved, maybe SATs and IELTS and things like that. And you know that if you go about it in the right manner, if you give the right exams, if you get the right qualifications and the right certifications and you apply, only if you've done all of these things on the pathway will you be able to achieve the long-term goal of getting to your choice of university. And that's really how the businesses think, that if we set ourselves little breadcrumbs along the way, it's like Hansel and Gretel. I hope I'm getting my stories right. So it's like them, right? You leave little breadcrumbs on the way, so that if you follow that path, you will eventually get to where you wanted to go, which is success for the business, which everyone desires. So it starts with the objectives. And of course, a huge role to play is for the employees, the collaboration, the effort, the strategies that they come up with. Only then, if they act on it and keep checking of its effectiveness and making sure that they're on the right track, will eventually lead to success. Now, in any organization, the business objectives are decided by the top management, the people who see the overall picture, who are in a formal leadership role, people like the CEO, the head of departments, the directors. Of course, they're the people who have a full understanding of the people who are in their departments and what their objectives should be. Also at this point, I would like to just briefly explain that a business is basically a collection of the different functions that it has to perform to make a profit. And when I say functions, functions are the different departments that a business would have. So, for example, any business would not exist without its finance department, without having to manage the cash and the profits that they're getting. So that's a function, therefore, it's a department. Similarly, human resources, HR is a department. Marketing is a department, which is the efforts towards your customers. Operations is a department which is the whole production process. And any business that exists, small, large, will have these four departments within it. Without these, the business cannot do what it's meant to do. So, finance, marketing, operations, and HR are the different departments, and these departments' directors or the head of departments would be the people involved in deciding the objectives for the rest of the year. And one characteristic, one criteria that all objectives should fulfill before it can be given to individual workers is that they must all be smart. Okay? What you see on the screen here, SMART, SMART, is an acronym for something else. Okay, what it signifies is there are 5 characteristics that all objectives must have for them to be an effective objective. Okay, if they don't check out in any one of these criteria, then the objective will never be fulfilled. Something will go wrong, your resources will be wasted. So you want to make sure that you get it right the first time around, and the way to do it is to make sure that you have a SMART objective. So what does SMART mean? Of course, S stands there for specific, which is simply asking the question, and is your objective applicable to us? Is it something that the business is currently doing? Is it something that I have an understanding for? Like if I have an ice cream store, I can maybe make pastries as well because I have some understanding of the desserts and it applies to my business. So diversification, having variety is what my objective would be in this scenario, but it applies to us. So it has to be something that the business can understand and it's applicable to their processes. M, which stands for measurable. Yeah. When you want to measure something, that means you have to quantify it. And you have to have some parameters, some ballpark, some number that you can see at the end to justify whether you've achieved the objective or not. Let's say you set the objective of 10% market share. So giving yourself a target, a 10% number, gives you something of a checkpoint. Like if we get this, okay, we did well, we did our objectives. If you don't, then you know there are things you need to review and improve for the next time. So can it be measured? That's something that the objectives should have. A is for achievable. Can it even be done? I mean, is it something that people have dreamt of in the middle of the night? I'm like, oh, okay, let's see. Let's just give the people this objective and let them at it. Let them figure it out. So it can't be like that. It has to be something that can actually be done with what is available within the company. And that leads us to our next one, R, relevant. Because relevant means that you have to make sure you have the right resources in place to be able to achieve this objective. If you don't have the right labor, capital, enterprise, and the right combination, you'll never be able to justify spending on any of those. So resources have to be relevant. And finally, it can't just go on forever. You have to give people some deadline, some time limit as to you have 6 months, 1 year, whatever that number is to achieve the target. So it should have some time specific element to it. So whenever you set an objective as a business, make sure it's SMART. It applies to all of these characteristics. Make it specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time. And whenever you have to have a discussion on objectives, you must include the part about SMART in it. Now, objectives flow within an organization using a hierarchical structure. Okay, what you see on the screen is a hierarchy, which is shown by using a pyramid design, where things start at the top as being small, and slowly as they flow down through the process, they get larger and larger. Call that a hierarchical structure. And all objectives will start off with a company's long-term aim. Okay, where do they see themselves in 10 years, 15 years? What do they want to achieve? How do they want to be remembered by? So their long-term achievement is what they're looking at in the first instance, where they want to see themselves. Do they want to be the largest manufacturers of phone in the world, the first choice in IT solutions? So all those would be the long-term aims for the business. And the long-term aim obviously means that it does not change very frequently. This will be for the long haul. What follows is what we call a mission statement. Now, a mission statement is literally a 2-3 line statement, and it has 3 characteristics, which means it's supposed to do 3 things. One, it should clearly identify the core aim of the business. So what product are they selling and who are they targeting? Number two, it should be worded in such a way that it motivates the employees to work harder for the business. So it should be written well. And finally, it should stimulate interest in all stakeholders. So whatever the business tells about itself in that statement should be clear to be understood by the customers, the suppliers, the employees, whoever wants to be associated with the business should find out what the business is all about. And a mission statement is like a summary of what the business is and what they expect to do going forward. And a key element of mission statement that I said was the core aim of the business. And linked with that aim are your corporate objectives. Okay? Now, your corporate objectives are your short-term goals. The aim was long-term, corporate objectives are short-term. And they could be changed yearly or whenever the situation changes, when the things in the external environment of the business go up or go down, recession, boom, when things change dynamically, a business has to respond by changing its corporate objectives. And a couple of examples of these would be looking for profit maximization or simply looking to increase your market share. Now, once you decide your corporate objective, let's say it's to increase the market share, wanting to sell more. The corporate objectives is being decided, as I explained earlier, by the top management, the CEOs and the head of departments. But it's all the departments collectively, the individual workers that will form the implementation on these businesses' objectives. So whatever the corporate objective is, let's say is to increase market share, it has to be explained or translated into individual departmental objectives. So for example, marketing is a department of the business. And if the business wants to increase the market share, marketing would be given the objective of increasing brand awareness, trying to increase your promotion, giving people discounts so that they are attracted to buy more and more of your product. Finance, or let's say operations, for example, how operations will be looking to increase the market share of the company is by producing more and more products. So the more you produce, the more the consumers can buy your product, and through that your market share will grow. So each department through its own processes would contribute towards the overall corporate objective. And in the end, who's working in these departments? It's these employees, individual workers. And then each individual worker is given their targets. And this completes the process of making sure that everyone in the organization is fully aware of what their role is. The employee in finance would know what they're supposed to do. Marketing, operations, HR, they will all be given their targets for that year. And as long as they all keep achieving their targets, let's say they all do, all the departmental objectives will be achieved. And once all the departments, finance, marketing, operations, HR, once all of them achieve their targets, the corporate objective would be achieved. And once each year, if you're able to achieve your target, year 1, year 2, year 3, if you continue to achieve those targets, you will eventually achieve your long-term aim. So the delivery, the breaking down of objectives is done in a top-down manner. So from aim comes the statement, comes the corporate objective, then the departmental, then the objective. But the implementation, the follow-up, the execution is a bottom-up approach. If the employees achieve their targets, all the departments manage it. If all the departments achieve their target, each year's company's objective is achieved. And if they continue to do this on a yearly basis, they will eventually fulfill what their mission statement states and achieve their long-term aim. So in the end, I would just like to conclude by emphasizing that the overall company objectives depend on the individual employees achieving their own individual objectives. And employees at every stage of production, lower management, middle management, or top management, will all need a common focus, a common goal to work towards, which will come in the form of your yearly corporate objectives, your short-term objectives. And that's what we're going to look at in our next video.